Hey guys, this is the Lucid podcast. Today we're going to be talking about aliens in a very broad range and scope. We're probably going to be jumping back and forth between things. So if that sounds like something you want to listen to, strap on your tinfoil hat and enjoy the ride. I guess a good way to start would be how aliens are kind of deeply woven into our history, and that's part of like a big part of conspiracy theories and people saying history is wrong, and people saying like looking at history, like looking at cave paintings, different like I feel like art is one of the biggest mediums that kind of shows that.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of art that is, supposedly inspired by aliens. There's a lot of that.
I mean, there's a lot of famous paintings and shit like that that have like flying saucers in the background and shit like that, and different artifacts that are found. I know everyone always talks about that one that looks like a spaceship. There's so many that it would take hours to talk about every single one. I mean, there's a lot. So, I mean, we do have a lot to go off of, and I think it is kind of weird that different cultures, different types of people, all of them not as technically advanced as us, so, some of them didn't even have a written record necessarily, and they still, left that type of stuff behind,
Yeah, right.
So, in that aspect, you'd kind of have to say that impacted them pretty dramatically and drastically for them to, leave that type of shit behind. I know that there's been cave paintings with shit that you could, it's something that's very old, so I don't know how distinguishable it can really be and how you can look at it and say this is this, definitely. I mean, if you look at artifacts, shit that were taken out of the ground usually, or somewhere that, high dust and hasn't been touched in a very long time, so shit gets corroded, and, bury a smartphone for 3 fucking years and pull it out, and it's not going to look much like a smartphone anymore. It's going to look like a smartphone covered in fucking dirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that over hundreds of years or thousands of years. That's definitely going to be something weird. It's gonna be basically it's gonna erode, be fucked up. That's not favorable conditions for most of those materials.
Right.
So I do think it's weird, and I don't necessarily know if it reaches every corner. And if someone wants to, play devil's advocate about that, specifically saying, well, if ancient cultures had contact with these beings and saw them and were able to document this shit, why don't we as a society kind of accept them and be like, oh, but the argument that I'd make right there is, so hypothetically, say they're aliens, right? If they've been watching us this whole time, then if we're committing to the theory that they've been with us in basically all of our generations from when we first touched down as Homo sapiens to now, they would know what we're capable of, and they would know what technology is right now, and they would have an understanding that if they basically made themselves, known at this specific time, it would blow up, and it would basically shut down the whole fucking world, and it would be a disaster.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because, if we're going with, like, oh, they used to show themselves all throughout history, and they don't do it now. What happened? Why our generation? Why don't they show themselves with our generation? And yeah, it might literally be, like, because they don't think it'll blow over well in this generation. Like, we're probably past that time where they think we can handle that, I guess.
Well, here's the thing. If it's 17th century France, if someone sees aliens aliens contact them, talk to them, how is that getting spread throughout the world? If it gets spread, the message is going to get diluted very easily, very quickly, and it's not like information can travel across oceans. Whereas here, if something happens in if aliens crash land in Papua New Guinea, like, one person there has to have a fucking cell phone. Like, it's a lot of remote drive, but one person on that fucking piece of land has a fucking cell phone and is going to be sending something, send a picture, do something. And, I mean, like, it's kind of like Men in Black, how, like, what year was that made? Was that late 90s or was that early 2000s?
I feel like that was early 2000s, but I'm not 100% sure.
Even then, you know, cell phones weren't really a thing as much. The internet wasn't really a thing as much. So there were people that didn't really have phones. So if you crash at a random farmhouse somewhere, you know, there was a slight chance that that's a one-off event. You know, like people at, you know, Kentucky Goblins case. I guess I think it's called Hopkinsville Goblins. There was a big case of aliens and, you know, shit like that. But nowadays, everybody has a phone. Pretty much everyone has a smartphone, and everyone has internet. So one person sees this shit. Yeah, if they're not careful and just one person actually sees them, their cover's completely fucking blown.
Yeah, completely. Basically the world would know. Like, that would spread insanely fast.
Yeah, that would spread in seconds to everywhere, and everyone be talking about it. And that is something that you gotta think. We have an emergency broadcast system where they can literally, like, your phone will freeze up and they will fucking send a message to your phone. Like, you know, it'd be that simple. Something like that happens, you probably instantly get an alert on your phone, and then it would be everyone everywhere would know.
Yeah, instantly.
So,
pretty much.
Yeah, if they were to just let themselves be out in the open, rather than hiding in the shadows and just fucking with people, you know, fucking with people's heads. And, I mean, that's kind of what they have to do, you know, if you think about it. Like, and obviously this is theoretical, but if I were an alien, obviously I don't know what their motives are or their intentions are. But if you're trying to study human behavior and just you've been studying it for this long, you know, obviously they probably have different lifespans, or, you know, there's something going on, or there's a reason that they're doing it.
Yeah,
so
right.
You probably do whatever you can to not let your cover be blown. So you'd have to.
I mean, once they do that,
here and there, and basically
parameters for them, like the human race as a whole, probably set up something that just completely cuts them off, like just to prevent them entirely. That's probably what would happen if I was to guess.
Yeah, I feel like it makes the most sense that you'd have someone from this corner of the earth, then you go to somewhere else, then you go somewhere else, and you keep it spread out. And sometimes you could do it to the same person, but there's already they already know that there's plausible deniability, and people aren't going to believe that, you know, you got abducted by aliens. So it works in their favor. Whereas if it's already well known and everybody knows, then if somebody gets abducted, then everyone's like, oh, so you got abducted? Oh, and then, like, pretty much they're a part of daily life. And depending on what they're doing, I feel like information would leak pretty quick onto what they're doing, or, you know, there'd be something. You know, there'd be some sort of recourse. So I just can't imagine that they would let themselves be seen.
Yeah, right. And, I mean, when they're abducting people anyway, I mean, like, if they are abducting people, you know, the people you hear talk about it, they basically always, they're not sure. Well, sometimes they're 100% sure, they say, but they, you know, they don't usually remember exactly what happened to them. Usually they'll have some marks on them or something like that, but
it's pretty weird.
You know, it seems like they're discreet about it.
I think there's a pretty broad range, and it's pretty much split 50-50 to people saying that they were good experiences and that they felt safe and that it's something that they actually long for, and like it was a cathartic experience. And then there's other people that just say that it was the worst experience that they've ever had, and it's negatively impacted their life, and it still happens. Like, we can maybe put the videos in the description if we can find them still. But we watched videos from this guy that basically was talking about plasma and mind control and saying that that aliens abducted him, years ago, and that he basically went crazy and that he thought they were all right and basically did stuff for them and it backfired on him. I don't remember the exact,
Yeah, I mean, basically
exact things he was saying.
Like, just
and then I've seen other people. Yeah, I've seen other people that are like, they're here for the greater good and the betterment of humanity, and actually saying that, saying a bunch of shit that, and kind of this, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few positive things you hear about them sometimes. I'd say most of them are pretty negative, but like, you do every so often you'll hear a story about someone who's like, yeah, I got abducted, but I felt safe and they didn't hurt me or anything like that, and
I think it's about
words and shit. Like,
yeah, I think it's about even from what I've seen. But yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of the topic and the subject. I was trying to make a channel where I talk to abductees and let them tell me their stories, but people are so cynical and think that people aren't going to believe them or they're going to belittle them and make them feel like shit. So finding people who are actually willing to tell you their stories is actually pretty hard. I was trying. I wasn't trying extremely hard, but I was trying pretty hard, and people seemed okay, but people were so hesitant that the fact that I was a random person who was trying who popped out of nowhere with this, they thought it was pretty sketchy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's understandable. I get that, because it's like, I don't know, from some other people's point of view, they're just like, oh, you're just trying to use my story for views or something. It's like, that's not what's going on here, but whatever. I don't blame you for thinking that, I guess.
Yeah, and people just don't want to be ridiculed and belittled, but I can't argue against that. I can't say you're fucking dumb. If I said that, then I kind of would be doing this exact thing that they're saying. So I'd say they probably have a point. If I were to act like that, they would definitely have a point. So
yeah. Right. Like, I mean, I get that, because like, it's something like hardly anyone is open to believe anything like that, even in that realm of stuff like that. Like, they just don't want to hear it most of the time, and they're not even willing to listen, really. So that's most of society. So I don't even blame anyone that's like, oh yeah, I don't trust that because you're not gonna listen to me or whatever. It's like, yeah, like, whatever. It's not a huge deal, I guess.
Well, here's one thing that I'd say. I think out of all the things that you could call esoteric or, paranormal, aliens are probably the most widely accepted and believed in out of all of them.
Yeah, probably. And even then, you have a lot of people who are not accepting of that.
Yeah, I'd say a fair amount. I mean, even people that have look at things with through a scientific lens, most of them don't outright say that they believe, but they will say, in theory, it makes sense.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, but it just runs so deep in our history.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's just so much of it that's actually documented, and it's just, I don't know. When you look at everything as a whole, not that I've seen all the evidence there is or anything, but when you look at all the things you've seen just by being on the internet in this day and age, it's like kind of staggering how anyone could not really think there's any sort of alien presence, like at all, period. It's like that I don't really understand, but
Well, I think out of all the things that are paranormal, I would say aliens are the one that are seriously. We have so much evidence that kind of supports it. Even the CIA and the United States government releasing documents of things being reverse engineered and different programs that they had, and just I think it's all but been proven, and
we just haven't. It just hasn't been
pretty much been confirmed.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it basically has been confirmed. It just hasn't been. We haven't seen it, and seeing is believing apparently. So that's all.
And here's the thing: is I think what's so frustrating is some people literally have seen it allegedly. Yeah.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah.
So I don't know if we made a video where I said this, or if it was on a video or not. But a couple of weeks ago, I was saying aliens are going to touch down on Earth in April. I was having a bunch of dreams. It's just like a gut feeling, a really weird feeling. And I still I'm going to stand by that statement. Obviously, I don't believe it's a gut feeling. So I have no evidence to base it off of. I really can't theorize anything, but that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like that's set in stone. Obviously, if someone is if you're a betting man, betting against me would easily be your best bet, considering the odds are pretty stacked against me being right. But it's one of those things that, like, I wouldn't have a gut feeling about something about, like, someone's gonna throw a grilled cheese at me on a fucking Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things that's kind of weird. I really don't have a good way to describe it or put it into words.
But if this year was the year, that would be like insane. That would be huge.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna say I'm not worried in the slightest, because even if it happens, it'll just be something that we eventually adapt to. And if it's something nefarious, then like it just sucks that we ended up at this day and time being alive, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of generations could say that. Like, if you were born in a World War II era, in fucking, Poland or something, you're kind of hit a rough go of things.
Yeah, I mean, you could say there's a lot of points in history that are like that. Almost every point in history that's not this one.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, we have had pretty horrible things. Some horrible things. I mean, the economy crashing,
Yeah.
I'm not going to act like, oh, yeah, this is definitely the truth. But it's one of those weird things.
I think people would have I feel like the reaction would be more split than we think it is. Like, I feel like most people would think it will immediately be like, absolutely not. I don't want any part of that. But I think we'd be surprised to see a lot of people that are pretty accepting of that.
Yeah,
happening.
I think it would entirely depend on the implications.
Yeah, it would.
And the context, it's just the unknown, and we'd have to wait and see and understand why. I think that would be the biggest thing. Why? And the why is the why is something you can't really answer. until it happens and it's
Yeah,
explained.
right.
So I don't know. It's one of those things. I think it's kind of rough.
Yeah, and like there's been like you were telling me like a few days ago or something like that how they find every so often they just find medals in people, and it's just like there's just no entry or exit point, which is like really strange. I always find that stuff really interesting because it's just like what's the explanation for that kind of shit. And then some of those people will claim that they've seen something or experienced something, so it's like gives it even more credibility. Not saying
Yeah.
they're right, but
Yeah. I kind of just. I think he'd be a disaster. And here's the one thing that I would say as far as that type of thing is concerned, and if it actually happens and it's real, where do we go from here?
like if everything was
Yeah.
made
Now,
known.
if say this happens and I'm right, and they tell you and they say that they're here to make the world a better place. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have an answer for it. I think I'd be terrified, but I already kind of think it's coming. So I would probably not be surprised, and I think I would just chalk it up as, well, this is what happened. Yeah, I just kind of chose.
Yeah,
We either got lucky and were born in the greatest time, of humanity, or we got really unlucky and we were born into the worst time in humanity.
Yeah, and we're gonna get like annihilated from the inside out. How horrible would that be if it was like, yeah, we're here to help you guys with technical advancements and shit like that, and then it's like, yeah, no, we're here to take things from you and destroy you from the inside out. It's like, well, goodbye world, I guess. The clock's ticking now.
Well, I think it like we said, conspiracy theories just run rampant with topics like this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And people are like, low frequency beams, and there's all this media and stuff like that in movies, but people cite John Carpenter's They Live. I mean, that could be a bunch of different things. You could chalk that up as a commentary on capitalism, even if you wanted. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I've never seen that.
But it's basically like in the thing they're like, consumerism, obey, buy, consume.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to. I feel like the tinfoil hatters just kind of muddy situations and just they make everything a lot worse.
Yeah, they do, and they also think too far ahead because they jump to conclusions so fast that they just have these scenarios running in their heads constantly that they just jump to conclusions, and it's just like, how did you even get there? It's like, relax, dude. Like, that just
it's a lot of times it's just complete utter bullshit, and you just listen to it like, do you have any fucking functioning brain cells whatsoever?
Yeah.
How are you able to breathe on your own without a machine, helping you?
Some of them literally deserve all the criticism that they get, like that whole group of people, but some of them don't. So, quote unquote tinfoil hat people, like.
No, I mean, I think it's the nature of being a human being. It's shitty, and it's kind of weird and annoying. And everyone wants to talk, and nobody wants to think. And I mean, I'm guilty of that sometimes too. I try not to be, but I don't know. I think it's hard. I think it's a tall task, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I kind of fall into the train of thought that there's no way that the world will ever end because the world isn't humanity. Humanity lives in the world.
Yeah, right.
once we're gone, say that we get, you know, if it's a weird scenario, say we're told, you know, this Earth is soon not going to be habitable for us, and they literally move all of humanity somewhere else, whether it's for a good purpose. What did you say?
I think the world would be fine, to be honest.
Oh no, that's kind of what I was getting at. The world would, you know, kind of pick itself up and go back to what it was, or a different, you know, it would change.
It'd probably be better off.
And
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it would change, and it would change into what it needs to be to continue and be, you know.
Yeah, right.
Whatever it is. Yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of under the school of thought that it doesn't really matter, because if humanity bites the dust, the world will still be here. So the end of the world isn't a real thing. You know, the end of humanity could very well be a real thing.
Yeah, yeah, the end of humanity is very real.
I mean, here's the thing. It's like anything. We're at the top of the food chain. Either at some point we get knocked off the podium and someone else takes our place, and we just struggle to live, and we basically just get by like animals do. You know, we just get by, and there's someone who kind of preys on us. You know, that's one possibility. The other possibility is we stay on the top of the food chain and we keep evolving and adapting, and you know, we end up in 2,000 years, we're still around, but we're not really human beings anymore. You know, we're something completely different. Because, you know, everything has to start from somewhere. You know, kind of our theories are, you know, a fish crawled on the land, and that's kind of how we got the ball rolling. Yeah. And then shit just broke off into a fucking ridiculous tree. So eventually we're going to have to break off into something else. And then we'll just be ancestors, and maybe humanity will be over, but it will be something different. But it still be us. It'd just be something different. Yeah.
Yeah, basically like the next level of humanity, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we evolved. We've already evolved a lot, considering we went from living in huts to living in concrete boxes with electricity and screens that fucking reflect light, and you know, you can play fucking games on. Like, if you give this to someone, to one of the first humans, they would just, I don't think they would be able to comprehend fucking anything.
I mean, they wouldn't even know what they wouldn't know what you were even talking about, like, at all.
No, well, they wouldn't even understand what you're saying. They probably wouldn't even recognize you. It's the same thing that you are. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
We're both human beings, Homo sapiens, and it'd be such a different divide, and we'd be so more evolved, especially technologically, that we would be completely different, you know, in pretty much every conceivable way, except maybe, and I wouldn't even say, I think our behavior has evolved a lot too, so I don't really know what the comparisons would be, except genetics. You know.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, that'd be the only comparison you could make.
Yeah, you do a blood test and you're like, oh, these are the same species, but very fucking different. So, yeah, that's something that I could see happening, and has nothing to do with aliens, I just realized, but I mean, it kind of does. Yeah. So, I don't know. And I mean, I kind of don't want to talk about conspiracy theories, just because there's so many bullshit theories, you know, that it would take us.
There's a spectrum of those.
Yeah. Anywhere from we're genetically modified beings that are, part alien, and it delves into a bunch of different things, and people use that as ways to explain certain religions and origin stories and shit like that, and it's just, I don't know. It's basically a can of worms to open, and once you start eating them, you have to fucking finish them, and that's not something that I want to fucking.
Yeah, I like to stay out of that territory because it's like, also, who is with you on those statements anyway? Like, serious, like, I like to, it's a human instinct. I don't know if instinct is the word, but you want to say things that people would agree with you on, right? And when you say shit like that, it's like you have no one on your side, like, literally. So it's like, I just like to stay away from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's one of those things. If you talk about one, especially if you want to stay objective, if you talk about one, you have to talk about all of them, and you have to look at them, completely objectively and transparently, and not really take sides and say, "Oh, this is true or false." Just talk about it. But there's so many, and so many end up contradicting each other, I'm sure. So it'd be,
I'm sure they do.
It would just be a pain in the ass to fucking go about it, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I don't really know. I think it's kind of a weird thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know. And plus, you risk getting labeled as a tinfoil hat, but honestly, you risk getting labeled as that no matter what. So I can't even say that. No matter, you can say anything that's even remotely out of the ordinary, and you're like, you're crazy. It's like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to crazy people talk all the fucking time. Usually, it's all in. I feel like for most people, if you can formulate a sentence and at least sound like you know what you're talking about, people are going to be more likely to listen to you. But if you just, if you can't articulate and
basically, if you're not making sense at all.
Yeah, if you sound fucking stupid, people are gonna blow you off as a joke and be like, who in the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, literally no one will listen to you.
Which, I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation. But I guess we could talk about some alien abduction stories. Because I know that's kind of where we were wanting to talk about with this in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, there was a lot they were like, oh, I felt safe, and then there's some that were like, it's a complete opposite. So it was just like, which one is it? Like,
yeah. So, just a little warning for people that are listening. We're not going to talk about any big cases just because, people have talked about them a lot before. Yeah. And I don't, have an expansive knowledge of what people have said and, their experiences, especially famous cases. I'm sure you could listen to someone else and they would have a lot better take on it than others just because they know a lot more about it. Yeah. So I do remember the one on Reddit that I don't want to criticize it because that just kind of would seem, douchebaggy. But this lady said she had a dream and then claimed that dream was an abduction in a roundabout way. Said that she felt the most intense pain in the world, but she couldn't remember actually feeling the pain, but she felt pain. And then said the name of Jesus Christ was what saved her, and basically talked a whole lot of Christianity, fucking bullshit. And I was just trying to figure out, so if aliens exist, right, why would the idea of Christianity scare them to the point that they would let you go? You know what I mean? Like, what would
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, what could the possible connection be? Because Catholicism specifically is the biggest. I believe it's the biggest religion in the world with the most followers. I believe. I don't have data right in front of me to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure Christianity or Catholicism has the most followers in the world, and Christianity is just an offshoot of Catholicism, essentially. So why would a group of however many people, 500 million people, that believe in something, when there's older religions and older things that have nothing to do with it, like why would they not be afraid of paganism or something like that? You know what I mean? I just don't understand how they would Jesus. And then we'll talk about some conspiracy theories for a second, I guess. So if the theory said Jesus was an alien, were real, that would maybe make a little bit more sense. If that name,
I guess
when you look at mysticism and shit like that, and even like grimoires, spells, shit like that, the spoken word has power and meaning. That's why, even though obviously things like Harry Potter and shit are blown out of proportion, and there are people that do real incantations, like saying prayers or incantations. That's fucking spells.
Yeah, right.
So there has to be something to that. So when you say a name, it has meaning. So if a name has power, if it's a being that is a telepathic being that is a higher being than whatever is coming around here, and they're like, well, we don't want to fuck with that,
Yeah,
but that can make sense.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense, but
that kind of is the only theory that.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the only theory that I could subscribe to that would make sense to me.
I mean, they always say God save me and stuff. It's like I feel this is what I think. I think they just think everything quote unquote evil or bad is it'll immediately get repulsed by their religion for some reason, and there is no. It's just perception based. There is no.
Yeah,
evil.
I think there's. I think part of the thing too is morals, and good and evil are kind of human things.
Yeah, that's perception. It's not a thing, really.
Yeah, so I mean, subscribing to the fact that alien beings would have the same fucking moral compass and same belief system as us, is more ridiculous than believing in them in the first place.
Yeah, right. It is. And if they are drilling into your skin and torturing you, it's okay, those are horrible things, but it's they're not necessarily doing something objectively wrong.
Yeah, it pretty much depends on the context, and you could say, from our point of view, and no matter what, it'd be wrong because you're not consenting for them to do that.
Yeah, from our point of view, yeah. But to them, they may not. That may be completely they may see nothing wrong with that, and they may have never seen anything wrong with that for as long as they've lived. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing that gets brought up, and in response to what you're saying, how people think that automatically there's plenty of people that have been in really bad situations and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and the shitty situation still happened to them, and they still suffered horribly.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Tons of people that has happened to.
I'm not trying to be like anti. You can believe in whatever you want, and if it works for you, 100%.
Yeah, right.
I don't think neither of us are condoning having your own beliefs. Like, believe in what you want. I think looking at it from the point of view of someone who's gonna, not be weighed down by, emotions and kind of thoughtless jargon,
Yeah.
Or I really can't think of the right word to use. Someone who's gonna look at something without rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe if you have a theory as to why that could be, you could enlighten us. But as I see it now, it would make absolutely no sense. Especially because if a being is coming and doing this shit, they're definitely a higher power than us. And a lot more advanced. So.
Yeah, I mean, they may, who knows? I mean, they may literally see us as like an ant or a microorganism or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they've been picking us up and doing stuff this long, I would probably say that they had a reason to do it. Yeah, and they don't want to see us as something to experiment with. Yeah. But I have no proof. I'm basically not even basing that off of any information that matters.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you'd never really know, but like theoretically, it's just kind of, I guess the most likely thing is that they just simply don't see a problem with what they're doing. I guess that's all there is to it. I guess.
Yeah, I'd probably say that's probably true. Yeah, if they are here, they probably don't really care, or there's no real understanding behind.
Yeah.
It kind of goes with things being interdimensional, and I think it's pretty much been proven. String theory and a bunch of different things in physics that there's other dimensions. Obviously, a lot of it is theoretical, but I'm pretty sure that it's just about confirmed that there's other dimensions. So if there's other dimensions, there's obviously beings in all these dimensions, and who's to say that there aren't beings that can hop from dimension to another? Now, would they be aliens? I mean, they're interdimensional beings. They're not they're alien to this universe or this dimension. So I would consider them aliens too. I mean, it would depend on what your understanding is and what, you know what I mean? But like, if that were the case, I don't think that would even change any of the things that we just said, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Really wouldn't.
So I think it's hard to. It's always a weird ass thing, man.
Yeah, and also I wanted to say, like, some people will literally argue with you about what scenarios or reasons why, like, they may be doing what they're doing. It's like there is no point in thinking about that. Like, you have nothing, no evidence of anything.
Well, if you know, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That was my fault.
Go ahead.
If you know, even if you know what they're doing and why they're doing it, it's not like that's gonna change, and there's no way that you're gonna be able to stop them from doing it anyway.
Yeah,
it's
right.
kind of like if an asteroid is coming towards the Earth, we're gonna be sitting there, kind of just enjoying our last days on Earth.
Yeah, right. Literally can't do anything about it, so there's no point in just not hypothesizing, thinking about why this is happening.
Yeah, so it goes along with those things. It's like there's no point in what's the right word? There's no point in worrying about shit that you can't control. So if an asteroid is hurtling towards Earth, we don't have the technology to stop it, and it's say 50,000 miles away, and it's gonna take 3 months. 3 months from now, I still guarantee there'd be no other way that we could stop it. So we would just have to, we pretty much just have to, cross our fingers and hope that it doesn't cause a world catastrophe, or even if it does, that we'd be able to survive it, and that casualties would be to a minimum, and that's pretty much be the only thing that we can do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that's a pretty similar situation. And if you'd look at that, you'd kind of be like, wow, so pretty much the world is just a depressing fucking place.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you guys next time.